A teenage boy dead in the street. A confounding cause of death with no obvious answers.
It was very disturbing. The crime scene was something I had never seen before.
You've secured all the windows, but you left the back door open.
How do you wrap your mind around that?
When forensic evidence eliminates possible scenarios, what's left is the impossible.
This is the only possibility, as strange as it sounds.
Other bosses looked at me like I had 6 heads. They said, no way.
How did this happen? And why?
Every crime scene tells a story. It begins on a chilly night in Milton, Massachusetts, a wooded community on the outskirts of Boston, with a 911 call from a local resident.
911, what is your emergency?
Hi, I'm not sure if this is a dead body or something. It's right in front of 57 Wyatt Brook Street.
Like that of an animal?
It's a dead body.
And did you get like a good look at it?
I mean, I look at it, it looks so real, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to get any closer than this.
It was such an unusual occurrence. Even right at the beginning, the dispatcher found it hard to believe that there was a body in the middle of the road.
Really control to Detective Bullard.
Milton homicide detective Louis Bullard is the first investigator on the scene.
Louis, you maybe have a situation up on Briarbrook.
Well, this is a beautiful neighborhood. This is a $1 million house neighborhood. Pretty quiet in nature. We don't see anything going on. It's kind of a tight-knit community. There's no crime, basically, up here.
The fact that it occurred right on a street outside a house initially threw people off.
Kenny, say it again. You're coming in broken up.
We have a body.
I can remember it very clearly. The crime scene was, extremely horrible. This is where he was at, head facing this way, legs facing that way, in a twisted manner. His torso was basically ripped apart.
When I get there, I see a body that's mangled, probably worse than anything I've seen in my 35 years. The body's laying on its back. There's no rhyme or reason on why that body is there.
It's a black male. He appears to be fairly young. The odd thing about it, he didn't have a t-shirt on, he didn't have shoes on. And you could see clearly road rash all around his body. And unfortunately, the brain matter, it actually extended all the way to the white door, probably 50 feet at least. Immediately, I felt the person was executed probably by a shotgun, close-range firearm.
There was so much trauma, you couldn't even identify the person if you knew who he was. That's someone's son, that's someone's brother. So. First thing that came to my mind is he was killed somewhere else. A car drove up there and then threw him out of the car, and then a car ran over him.
In my mind, that was typical of what we call a drug rip, where they would kidnap somebody and try to extort them for money, what have you, bring them to an undisclosed location, take their clothes off so if they try to escape, they wouldn't have the proper gear to flee.
He didn't have his sneakers on. Sometimes that's a message if you're dealing with criminal activities.
The police reports and stuff indicated that they didn't really know at first. They thought he may have been hit by a car or multiple cars. It may have been a homicide. It may have been anything.
While CSIs process the area, detectives speak to the 911 caller.
The guy who called 911, he is a resident that lives probably 50 feet from where the body was found.
He tells police he and his wife were driving home when a group of college girls flagged them down to point out the body.
It was students from Curry College that were circling the area.
Investigators find it strange that the Curry College students didn't call 911 themselves. They are questioned right away.
They accidentally took a wrong turn as they were going to the South Shore Plaza.
They got lost and they saw a dead body on the road.
To Bullardham West, the girl's story does not make sense. South Shore Plaza is 4 miles from the scene.
Yeah, so these girls were heavy on our radar because of the inconsistencies in their stories.
Something about them's not being completely truthful.
What was their connection with this particular guy? How did he get there?
Suspicions intensify when investigators do a cursory examination of the black vehicle.
As soon as we looked at the front tire, you could see all tissue and brain matter and everything else.
You had these younger people, college students, that claimed that nobody ran over his corpse, yet there was blood and tissue on the Jeep.
So right away, that's probable cause to seize the car.
The car is taken in to be examined, but the girls are allowed to return home, for now.
But in the meantime, we felt that there was other pressing issues.
Such as speaking with other neighbors.
One neighbor said she heard a loud bang, and then her husband jokingly said, "Someone just got shot."
Several residents have similar accounts.
Some thought it was more like a gunshot, others said it sounded more like a light thud, but it was all right around the same time.
Further down the street, a group of guys had lifted the engine off their car. They heard a bang as well. They thought the engine dropped.
They saw a white car in the area.
I said, okay, you saw a white car leaving the scene. And one of them corrected me and said, no, we saw a white Audi leaving the scene. The girls haven't told us anything about a white Audi.
Investigators also checked the area for surveillance footage.
The guy who called 911, he had cameras everywhere.
And we see the black car that we know was there going by with a white car.
Sure enough, his home video showed this white Audi circling along with the Jeep around his cul-de-sac numerous times. So that raised our suspicion. I believe the white Audi was definitely involved in either transporting the victim or executing the victim at the time.
Investigators begin to focus on the Curry College students as potential suspects in what looks like a grisly homicide.
The victim was executed. These girls may know who did it.
It appeared that someone had been killed and left there. But then the evidence came forward, and it was puzzling.
At autopsy, the medical examiner reviews the injuries.
The ME's office says there's lacerations to the abdomen. There's broken legs. He's contorted a little bit.
She found multiple fractures all through the body and major head trauma. However, at the time, she could not determine the cause of death.
The medical examiner does determine 2 things, however. First, she rules out the gang shooting theory.
Now, they did say that there was no gunshot wound on the autopsy. That's one of the only conclusive things they said.
Unfortunate for my theory, it came back negative with traces of gunshot residue.
Second, the injuries are too severe to be consistent with a beating.
Right away you say, okay, I've seen drug reps before, but he wasn't shot. And I can't imagine someone being beaten to that degree.
So now what? Our main problem with this case was that we had no idea who this person was and how they got there.
First thing they're going to think of is he was hit by a car or a vehicle. Second thing is he was placed there after being murdered.
With no ID for the victim, investigators focus on the cause and manner of death.
I mean, how did this person get injured so badly?
The medical examiner has the same question.
That wasn't road rash that we saw. That was what they call stamping. The pavement has little ridges in it and has holes in it. That got stamped right into the body.
The velocity of the trauma was such that the medical examiner said, this doesn't look like it could be a hit and run, because it was much more severe.
The other question that the medical examiner had was that, did this person fall from a bridge? Did they come from a high area?
Of course he didn't fall off a building. There's nothing here. That would be nice if it was in the middle of New York City, but he's in a neighborhood of a bunch of houses that are no more than 2 stories high.
The ME also makes a discovery in the pocket of the victim's jeans.
We got word that there was a piece of paper in his pocket, like a yellow sticky note. It had a name.
The handwriting is hard to make out and doesn't bring police any closer to identifying the young man.
The medical examiner took the victim's fingerprints and tried to match them in a database. Nothing came back.
On the same day as the autopsy, CSIs find another potential clue to the identity of the victim.
A lot of pieces of plastic or what have you, some sort of substance that was broken up like into 1,000 pieces.
It almost looked like glass, but it was shattered.
We didn't know what it was, so the crime scene technicians take it to the lab and try to figure out what it is.
As they wait for those results, detectives intensify their scrutiny of the Curry College students, determined to find the white car that fled the scene.
We know that some of them live off campus, and we just happen to be going by a complex where some of the students live. And I look over and I see a white car pulled in with a Curry College sticker on it. And we just pulled in the parking lot and walked up to the car.
On the undercarriage, it was very apparent that the brain matter was on this white Audi. He towed the vehicle back to the station, and we got in contact with the owner and the attorney.
Realizing they are now suspects in a homicide, the Curry College students reveal more details.
The original story of them going to the mall at the South Shore Plaza and actually taking a wrong turn, that was an absolute lie.
The girls admit the black SUV was not the first vehicle on the scene. The white sedan was. They were going to Brybrook Street to get high.
That's the best place to smoke marijuana, because if they get caught smoking marijuana on the campus at Curry, they'll get expelled from the school.
One of the girls in the white car sees something.
As she was smoking weed, she came across something in the street. She called her buddy, who was driving the black Jeep. If you want to see something weird, come up here.
They couldn't believe in their minds what they just saw, so they drove by it again. Still couldn't believe what it was. Drove by it again.
They also decide to flag down help, but only after the white car leaves, because the white car driver misplaced her license.
The driver of the white Audi got nervous and fled the scene.
To determine if the students are telling the truth or are lying again, investigators call on car accident reconstructionists to examine the vehicles. They start with some basic questions.
Was there an impact between that vehicle, or did the vehicle run him over? Or was the injuries from him already being there?
Investigators inspect the impounded vehicles for signs they've hit someone.
You can see that there is no damage to this vehicle that is at all consistent with striking a pedestrian. The pedestrian didn't have injuries that were consistent with interacting with the front of a vehicle, and debris and evidence at the scene was not typical of what you would find in a pedestrian impact. And that's kind of what allowed us to rule out that this person was struck by a motor vehicle.
Both vehicles simply drove through the biological matter spread out on the road. With the hit-and-run theory eliminated, all police have is a badly damaged victim whose identity they still don't know. They re-examine the piece of paper found in the victim's pocket.
It said something to the effect of lunch. And once I saw that, it brought back memories.
Detective Bullard realizes it's a hallway pass.
So this kid's in high school. So the chief of police decided to submit it to the public and went across the country.
Passerby found a young man's mutilated body on Briarwood Street in Milton Monday night. Still a mystery, the victim's identity.
It was within 24 hours we got a call from the gentleman's aunt that identified that her nephew had been missing from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Her nephew is 16-year-old high school student Delvonte Tisdale.
And once she gave the name Devontae, and I saw the name on the pass, I said, this is it. This is who he is. Now that we have an idea this kid is from North Carolina, the question is, how'd he get here?
What's he doing in Massachusetts?
Delvonte Tisdale was reported missing from his home in Charlotte 3 days before his aunt called Milton police.
He was new to Charlotte. He was living with his father. His mother and father were divorced, and his mother was living in Baltimore.
Just a kind dude. He was a giver. He was a protector. He was willing to do anything for anybody within his means if he could. And that's just the kind of person he was. He enjoyed his school. He was an exceptional athlete, but he also enjoyed aviation a lot. One of his plans when he got older was to go into the Air Force. That was one of his goals.
Delvonte was an active member of his high school Air Force Junior ROTC training program.
They train to go into a branch of the military service after high school.
They are goal-oriented, clean-cut, law-abiding individuals.
Milton detectives team up with police in Charlotte to confirm the aunt's suspicions that her nephew Delvonte was the person they found on Briarbrook Street, 800 miles away from his home.
The following day, we got on a plane and went to Charlotte to find Devontae's family. I was able to go into his bedroom and try to extract latent fingerprints. We picked a set of hair clippers. We picked a brush.
We compared those fingerprints with the body, and we were able to positively identify him as a Delvonte Tisdale.
Which is really tragic. A 16-year-old boy. It's heartbreaking, frankly, to know that a family lost such a young person that had a lot of promise and a life ahead of them.
That was probably one of the hardest parts of the job, was delivering a death notification.
The family was destroyed at that point.
It was identified that it was him, and my whole world, my world ended.
I never felt lost like that before. I had never, ever, ever felt lost like that before. It just dropped on me, like the weight of that news. It just fell on me.
My son had complete goals here, to make a career, to move forward with his life, school, different things like that, and he was the average teenager.
It was so hard for me to make sense of that. When did this happen? Like, how did this happen?
One clue comes from Delvonte's other brother, Daquan, with whom he's been sharing a room in their father's house in Charlotte.
His brother described articles that were missing from the room, which were the Air Force Nikes and the red polo shirt with different stripes.
We had a good idea on what Delvonte Tisdale was wearing that day. Now we have to get the timeline straight.
How does he get from his house in North Carolina to Boston on the 15th?
So we talked to the people that saw him last.
When Devontae decided to go to bed around 1:30, he told his brother, woke him up, something to the effect, "I'll see you later." And then his stepmother came in around 5:45-ish, and she said, "Daquan, where's your brother?" He's like, "He's gone."
20 hours later, Delvonte was found dead 7 states away on the outskirts of Boston.
The Tisdale family had no ties to Boston, Massachusetts.
The family was constantly asking, "What is in Boston? We know nobody in Boston."
Investigators turned to Delvonte's friends for insight. They learn his recent move to Charlotte to live with his father instead of with his mother in Baltimore hasn't been easy.
At this particular time, he was having difficulties with his father. So the word was that Devontae really wanted to go back to Baltimore with his mom. So he's going through this transition as an adolescent, but this ROTC program was the highlight of Charlotte for him.
Delvonte participated in as many ROTC activities as he could, including a fundraiser at a Renaissance festival held 2 days before he disappeared.
The Renaissance Festival is like a state fair, but it's all people dressed in middle-aged costumes.
After Delvonte got home from the festival, he and his father argued about chores.
On the 14th, the night before he went missing, his father said, "I'm gonna take away your ROTC for now until you start doing things my way." Devontae was very upset, and then he went to his brother and he said, "Yeah, I want to go to Baltimore. I want to get out of here."
He was happy in Baltimore. If I had to guess where Devontae was trying to go, I would say he was trying to get back to Baltimore, to his family.
Police wonder, if he wanted to go to Baltimore, how did he end up in Boston?
We started thinking that maybe he hooked up with someone from some of these traveling fairs that go around the country.
It's a 14-hour drive to Boston, and Delvonte was found less than 20 hours after his brother last saw him. Investigators chased down hundreds of vendors and visitors to the fair to see if Delvonte caught a ride.
We never connected the dots in terms of someone from the fair and them facilitating his way to Boston somehow, some way. We knew he didn't have a car. We knew he didn't have money. How would he leave? There was no train that comes this way in that time frame.
Bus schedules don't match the time frame either.
The only other means of transportation is by air.
But Delvonte isn't listed as a passenger on any flight, leaving police with nothing but questions.
They were stumped.
Hoping for some answers, police send crime scene expert Kenneth Martin to investigate the body recovery site.
So I was contacted because of my experience going out to scenes and offering opinions. So I think I went out there 2 weeks after the scene. There was still evidence of the aftermath there on the ground. It will stay there for some time.
Detective Lieutenant Martin examines the blood spatter pattern. To him, it confirms this was no hit and run.
If this had been a hit and run, we'd have any of the spatter, blood, or whatever in a directionality with the force.
Meaning the spatter would be propelled in the same direction as the car that hit Delvonte.
If I have a vehicle here that's going in this direction here, if they hit the person, well, we would expect that it's going to be in this particular location here. What I found there is pretty much the stains were radiating out circularly. In other words, 360 degrees. Now, what that's indicative of something coming straight down is it hits the surface. If I were to take a water balloon, if I were to drop that, that balloon burst is going to radiate 360 degrees.
The spatter matches a fall from a great height, just as the ME thought. But how?
As fate would have it, as I'm there in the middle of the scene assessing this airliner goes over my head. I looked up at detectives and I told them, I said, you know, you may think I'm crazy, but I'm thinking he may have fallen out of a plane.
This investigation, it defied what our logic was.
This person was injured like they fell out of the sky.
It's hard to believe that someone would fall out of a plane.
Police have already checked. Delvonte Tisdale is not on any flight manifest. But Kenneth Martin has another theory.
I've seen at least one case where someone actually had stowed away in the landing gear and fallen out.
I remember thinking at the time how remote a thought that was, to take that kind of leap.
Lieutenant Bill West feels it's a leap worth exploring, no matter how remote. He contacts a friend who works at Logan Airport.
I was told, depending upon which way the wind is blowing, they use certain runways. And on the night in question, they were using this runway that faces Milton. So I brought up Google Earth, and I went to that runway, put a dot in the middle of the runway at the end of the runway, and I put a dot in the middle of the runway at the beginning of the runway, and I connected those two dots, and I sent that line off to infinity.
Bill was able to do the infinite line from runway F4 from Logan Airport, and he said, guess where it crosses?
I realized that that line came within 3 feet of my body, 11 miles away from the airport. That's what sold me on the theory that he fell out of the airplane. I'm like, that's too much of a coincidence for me.
Investigators have to prove it's not just a coincidence.
Okay, now, do we have any planes around that time that went over that location?
At that point, we reached out to the FAA.
The body of a 16-year-old boy found in an upscale Milton neighborhood has investigators looking in all directions, including up in the sky. A spokesperson for Massport confirms authorities requested flight path information.
And the FAA provided us with 3 different planes, and we clearly narrowed it down to one in the time frame where the 911 call came in.
U.S. Airways Flight 1176 departed Charlotte at 7:16 and landed at Logan Airport at 8:55 p.m. on the day Delvante was found.
This particular plane was right over the area of Briarbrook around 8:52.
And it's at that time, right over that point, that they used their landing gear.
So now we're like, this is possible. Absolutely possible.
Detectives Bullard and Martin arranged to visit the 737 passenger jet.
We were granted access to the airplanes at the Charlotte International Airport. They were very helpful.
As luck would have it, the wheel wells have not been touched since the plane flew from Charlotte to Boston.
So normally they power wash that area down so it's cleaned out, but they were able to identify the plane, take it out of service. It hadn't been cleaned.
Police examined the left main landing gear.
You could literally make your way up that wheel assembly into the wheel well.
You don't need anyone, no assistance. Just hop in, lift yourself up.
You can see there's plenty of things to hold on to. Tubes, pipes, lines, little actuators, little motors. So getting up in there is not a problem.
He would have been around on this side here because this wheel would have come up into this bay area here.
Investigators searched the wheel well for concrete evidence Delvante had been there.
Mr. Tisdale had wrapped himself around the wheel itself, and you could see on the area of the bulkhead, it appeared there could be some shoe impressions there. Likewise, where his hands would have been, there appeared to be some hand marks.
That looks like grease, and it looks like, I hate to say it, but aviation-type grease. It's kind of brown-looking.
To confirm whether Delvante Tisdale was actually an airplane stowaway, investigators tried to compare the partial prints in the wheel well to Delvante's, but the sample isn't sufficient for a match. Next, they turned to the grease samples, which hold more promise.
There's specific grease that's used for specific aircraft. So you can tie a grease type generally to aircraft types.
They just need something to tie that grease to Delvante. There wasn't any grease on his body, but police wonder about his missing clothes.
He had no shoes on and no shirt, so we knew we were looking for those items.
If the airplane stowaway theory is correct, Delvante's shirt and shoes should be somewhere along the flight path.
The plane was 3,000 feet in the air when they were above 57 Briarbrook. When the wheels were let down,
the fact that the sneakers were torn off of him, that was also consistent with the high velocity of the wind if you were dropped.
So as he's falling, he loses his shirt as he's making his way down to the ground.
Less than a month after Delvante's body was found, Lieutenant West asks a local SWAT team to walk the flight path.
It was 80 officers and a K-9 team, and they're all on overtime from their own departments. So if I'm wrong, there's going to be a lot of people looking at me saying this was all for nothing.
The K-9 teams go out first, searching the flight path, followed by the SWAT team.
They're not walking the paths up in the woods. They're going through hard brush in a straight line, shoulder to shoulder. I really didn't expect that they would find anything right away.
But almost immediately, they do.
They sent out their K-9 team, and within 20 minutes, this is the first shoe that was found, the sneaker. And you can see it's in the middle of the woods here. And on the same line, a couple hundred feet after that, again, not on a path, but in the middle of the brush, they find the matching sneaker. And I couldn't believe it. By the time I got to the command post, I'm walking in, and they're sending the picture of the red shirt that they found another 100 feet up.
At the FBI lab in Virginia, DNA testing confirms the items are indeed Delvante's. Grease from the clothing is then compared to the wheel well samples.
They can't say conclusively that grease in that plane was the same grease, but they can say that it's consistent with the same type.
This confirms the theory that Delvante stowed away, then fell to the ground when the aircraft dropped its landing gear.
It's a perfect case to show. Followed the forensics. If I had just followed the facts, I think we would have got to the conclusion just a little bit quicker than we did.
We weren't expecting to hear that he had fallen from an airplane. I believe that some answers are better than none at all. But how do you wrap your mind around that?
For Delvante's family, the news begs more questions than answers.
I just don't see how it could happen. We're completely devastated by it.
If indeed he was a stowaway, it just doesn't make sense. Like, how would he even get there?
Investigators believe 16-year-old Delvante Tisdale was able to climb into the wheel well of a 737, remaining undetected until his body was discovered in a Milton neighborhood on November 15th.
For the family's peace of mind, investigators want to determine how Delvante died.
It was very important for me to tell the family close to exactly what happened and maybe put some closure to the case.
Detectives believe Delvante was dead before he fell to the ground.
So there's many ways that he could have, eventually died.
Delvante's death was most likely caused by the altitude of the plane. High altitude leads to two things. One, low air temperatures.
You can pretty much bank on a temperature decreasing at a rate that's somewhere between 3.5 to 5.5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet.
The 737 flight from Charlotte to Boston reached an altitude of 30,000 feet within 15 minutes of takeoff.
So at those altitudes, the temperature could have been as low as 50, 60, or 70 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit.
Unlike the passenger cabin or cargo hold, wheel wells aren't heated or insulated. Hypothermia would set in quickly, causing Delvante to pass out and for his heart to slow and stop. The second thing caused by the plane's altitude is a low oxygen level. Wheel wells aren't pressurized, so oxygen levels plummet, leading to hypoxia, which causes confusion, heart irregularity, and turns the skin blue.
By the time you get to 18,000 feet, your air density is about 50%, which means you have 50% of the oxygen to breathe. So at 30,000 feet, there's only about 30%. The point is, it's about the brain. The brain cells are most sensitive to a decrease in oxygen than all the other cells in the body. Without oxygen, your cells die. He succumbed to hypoxia and he succumbed to hypothermia.
I think he was probably dead very quickly after takeoff.
I tried to think about it from the standpoint of, well, at least he wasn't, alive when he fell from an airplane. Just knowing that your brother is in such a terrifying situation that they can't get out of, I think that was the most difficult part. It's a horrible feeling.
It was clear what happened. And so the real puzzle then became, how did he get into that wheel well?
Police also want to know how Delvante got to the airport in the first place. So they return to the very beginning of the case, the unexplained plastic bits of evidence on the scene.
When the crime scene technician scooped up all the broken pieces of glass or plastic, they were able to put it together.
And it turned out it was a card from a DoubleTree Hotel down in Charlotte.
The kind of plastic hotel key that you would slide in or over to unlock your hotel door for security.
Investigators learned several participants of the Renaissance Festival were staying at the DoubleTree. Police believe Delvante might have walked there to see friends.
So we had detectives go to the DoubleTree and show Delvante's picture to some of the workers there.
They saw him jump on the free shuttle to go to Charlotte International Airport. Delvante wanted to go back to his mother, and because of the ROTC being taken away from him, the thing he loved the most, he was desperate at that point.
In the early hours of that Monday morning, he left his house and made his way to the DoubleTree.
We believe that he spent most of his day at the DoubleTree, and they got on the free shuttle to get to the airport.
Once he gets off the shuttle, he sees his plane sitting there. If I was a young kid and I saw, you see crazy things on TV, I can get up in that wheel well and I can ride it there. You don't think it through.
Nobody knows why he picked that plane.
There would be no way for him to know what plane's going where.
But this theory does not answer all of the Tisdale family's questions.
We've always been told that the airport is so well protected, but they didn't protect my son. They didn't protect the folks who were actually riding on the plane.
I feel like the airport should have been a much more secure place.
What's important is, can we do something to make sure that another family doesn't have to go through the suffering, the tragedy that the Tisdale family did?
If a teenager could do this, what type of vulnerability did the public have?
Delvante Tisdale was able to stow away on an airplane 9 years after the Twin Towers fell. Airport security is supposed to be impenetrable.
After 9/11, something like that was possible by a teenager.
How did he even get out onto the secure area to get into the plane?
My son is the average teenager. He's no James Bond, no stunt person. We're still very confused, like we were at day one. We just want, things to be resolved for us.
The Tisdale family hires attorney Christopher Chestnut. They want to know if the airport or airline are liable in Delvante's tragic death.
The dad wanted answers. And I said, I can't tell you or guarantee whether you'll have a civil case, but we can front an investigation and try to figure out what happened, why.
How could it have been allowed for him to get across an area such as this right here? That's the burning question for all of us.
How did a 16-year-old find his way into that wheel well on the tarmac, on the runway?
An investigation into airport security is launched. Detectives walk the whole of the airport's 19-mile perimeter fence.
Now we see areas of vulnerability here. This fence looks like it was patched up a little bit.
We found multiple breaches in the perimeter, as did others. There were holes in the fence on the perimeter of the airfield that humans could crawl through.
There was a major cutout of the fence on the same tarmac as the planes that was taken off.
Inside the airport was strong, but outside was a totally different situation. It's like saying you've secured all the windows, but you left the back door open. This was tragically a young 16-year-old boy who was full of adventure. What if it wasn't? What if it was someone with much more nefarious intent? What if they had put an explosive there?
It's a national security issue. Charlotte Douglas is an international airport, the 8th most active hub in the US at the time.
This isn't just Charlotte Douglas Airport. If you're in the network, you're only as strong as your lowest guard in that network.
The Tisdale family sues the airport for lax security, but the case is ultimately dismissed for lack of evidence.
We had plenty of information from Massachusetts, but we couldn't lock down enough facts, right? From the Charlotte-Mecklenburg airport side.
Still a DA at the time, Bill Keating had just been elected to Congress when Delvante fell. One of the first things he does in federal office is launch an investigation into the death of Delvante.
That kind of breach of security better be investigated to the full extent. It's a work in progress. If there's any solace that can be brought from this terrible tragedy, you're seeing airport perimeter security at a better state.
Nothing's ever going to bring him back. And while I may not ever know the full story per se, at least when it happened, it was treated with care. To know that your brother, your family member was treated with, some dignity in this case, and was really, really important. This is my first time ever even being here in this area and seeing any of this. Like, being here as a grown man after all these years that kind of passed by is unreal, to be honest. I'm still trying to soak it all in. Just looking up and just thinking to myself, like, that actually happened. Like, he was here, in a place where none of his brothers were, none of his siblings were, just here. It sucks, always will.